Well, to talk more about that, we're joined by Tony Badran. He's a research fellow at the Foundation for the Defence of Democracies. Thanks for joining us, Tony. Great to see you. So it is being reported that Hochstein has what's being called a mediation proposal to offer the two sides. Any idea in your mind what that might look like?
No, everything right now is speculative. There's been a lot of speculation both in Lebanese and Israeli media, but none of it is confirmed. What we can say with some measure of certainty is that what Hochstein and the Biden administration will propose will certainly be much more beneficial to Hezbollah than previous proposals. And they will have forced Israel under threat of violence from Hezbollah to concede more than it had before, which sets a precedent of having Hezbollah/Iranian threats and operations leveraged by the United States to push Israel into a deal in which it concedes in order to benefit the Hezbollah and Iran axis.
Can you tell me a bit more about the concessions that Israel is making?
Well, the first thing is, prior to this Hochstein mediation, the framework for the negotiation between Lebanon and Israel in sort of the 2010s, let's say, decade, involved a 854 square kilometer triangle, which was supposed to be divided in a ratio of 55 to 45 in Lebanon's favor. That seems to be out the window now, and the Lebanese have imposed through Hezbollah a new starting point that basically they get all of this. Now, what Israel can get in terms of compensation is a minor point to that, because the territory seems to be, from all the conversation we're hearing and the leaks that we're hearing, especially from the Lebanese side, that this is now the new starting point. So by default, anything other than the 55-45 ratio that used to be the American position is by default a gain for Lebanon and a loss for Israel.
So Hochstein will take these proposals to Beirut tomorrow. He'll be meeting with President Aoun. What kind of reception do you think his proposal will get there then?
Well, I mean, it all depends. So far, everything he's been doing with the Lebanese is beneficial to them. And so they have every incentive to play along, but they have stated, meaning Hezbollah and then its minions in this front called Lebanese government, that the United States uses to basically negotiate indirectly with Hezbollah, they've said that, they have some certain red lines. They don't want any shared exploration or profit sharing with Israel, so that to avoid any semblance of cooperation with Israel, while at the same time saying that we want this prospect, a field that's not yet been explored, to be entirely in Lebanese hands. Now, this is where there might be some sort of a compensation to Israel, financial perhaps, we're not sure. And that's why also Hochstein has been working with the French, and there have been reports in Lebanon that also the Qataris might be involved in this, because another of Hezbollah's conditions is that exploration starts immediately in Lebanon, and that we won't simply wait until everything is delineated and there's an agreement. They want immediate exploration to begin, which means France's Total Energies has to start work as soon as possible, and it had been hesitant to do so because of the unresolved maritime border issue.
Okay, well, is there not a risk for Hezbollah, though, that everything goes ahead, the deal is signed, the two countries working side by side and reaping the revenue of those offshore gas resources? Is there a risk that might further down the line pave the way to some kind of normalization between Israel and Lebanon? Is that out?
Why is that in any way not beneficial to Hezbollah, that they start getting investments in their areas, they start getting revenues, they become a player in Eastern Mediterranean energy, they do so through the threat of violence leveraged by the United States on their behalf, and in a way that Israel concedes to their demands? Why is that in any way not beneficial to Hezbollah? And of course, it won't lead to any normalization or anything of the sorts. That's why they've been very clear in their demands to avoid any such semblance of dealings directly with Israel. So as things stand right now, the Biden administration has called this a key priority. Why is Lebanon, enriching Hezbollah-dominated Lebanon, a key priority? Well, I mean, the answer to that, you have to look for the Biden administration's overall Iran policy, which is the same policy as the Obama administration's, which is a pro-Iran policy. And you're seeing some of its dividends in Beirut as well.
Tony, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you very much. Tony Badran there at the FDD.